Hello students, this session will discuss regarding Indian Independence Act of 1947. The Act of 1947 was the last legislation of British Parliament with the intent of creating independent India. The Government of India Act 1935 failed to satisfy the Indian demands. In 1939, the Congress demand to form a constituent assembly to frame a constitution for free India. This demand was resisted by the British. With the outbreak of Second World War, the British government sent Sir Cripps to India in 1942. When Japan just entered the war, the Indian National Congress was opposed to extend any help. The British realized the importance of India in combating Japan. To achieve India's cooperation, he proposed the formation of Constituent Assembly to frame the constitution and provide dominion status to India. At the end of war, the Cripps proposal were rejected by both the Indian National Congress and the Muslim League. It led to Quit India movement. So this act came into existence due to the defects existed in the Act of 1935, because the Act of 1935 failed to satisfy the Government of India Act 1935 failed to satisfy the demands casted by the people of India. So in 1939, whatever the demand casted by people of India not accepted by the British regarding formation of the Constituent Assembly. So they laid the requisition before the British Parliament to have their own Constituent Assembly, but that was not agreed by the Britishers. This demand was resisted by the British. That means demand for formation of Constituent Assembly, that they not accepted. With the outbreak, in the meanwhile, the Second World War took place. In 1942, Japan entered the war. So the Indian National Congress was opposed to extend any help. That means during meanwhile, when this was going on, political condition was going on. That means Britishers are not ready to give in the hands of the people to form their own constituent assembly. In the meanwhile, Second World War broke out. So during that time, the Britisher asked the help to people of India, but they not accepted. The British realized that the importance of India. That time they realized the importance of India in defeating Japan. So to achieve India's cooperation, so to get the assistance of the people of India, so they put proposal regarding, they agreed to give in the hands of the people of India towards the formation of the Constituent Assembly to frame their own constitution. That means they agreed. So let them, people of India, frame their constitution to draft the frame the constitution and provide dominion status to India. They agreed. Not only they agreed to frame the Constituent Assembly, but to frame the constitution, and they are ready to give up dominion status to India at the end of war. So the Cripps proposal were rejected by both the Indian National Congress and the Muslim League. It led to Quit India movement. So that was not accepted by the people of India. That itself gave the way for the Quit India movement. So here, in the meanwhile, one Mr. Wavell plan, which proposed for reconstituting the Executive Council of the Governor General with equal seats to Hindus and Muslim. In the meanwhile, Wavell plan proposed for reconstituting the Executive Council of the Governor General with equal seats to Hindus and Muslim. Then Jinnah stood for a separate Pakistan and hence declined the plan, so it failed. So that plan also come to an end. In the meanwhile, elections were held in England and Labour Party came to power with the absolute majority. So that is the Attlee became the Prime Minister. He admitted that right of Indians to frame the constitution for free India and even to remain out of Commonwealth. The Labour Party was earnest to solve the Indian problem. In 1946, it announced that a cabinet mission will be sent to India to resolve the issue. The cabinet commission consisting following recommendation. So in the meanwhile, the Labour Party came into power. So it was headed by Prime Minister Attlee. So he accepted that the right of Indians to frame the constitution for free India and even to remain out of Commonwealth. So the Labour Party was earnest to solve the Indian problem. So the Labour Party took initiative steps towards granting the or solving the Indian problem. It laid down, it sent to verify the demands of people of India. The Labour Party sent cabinet mission to India to resolve the problems existed in India. So the cabinet mission recommended for following, that means they laid down the report consisting formation of Constituent Assembly with 389 members, then formation of interim government with the support of all political parties, formation of Union of India including British India and Indian states, ruled out formation of Pakistan as undesirable. As per the recommendation of the cabinet mission plan, the Constituent Assembly was established. So as per the recommendation submitted by the cabinet mission, so the Constituent Assembly was set up under the leadership of Dr. Babu Rajendra Prasad as a president. Then for making the constitution in 1947, the drafting committee was set up by the Constituent Assembly under the chairmanship of Dr. Ambedkar. So this way, these are the two events. One, Dr. Babu Rajendra Prasad for making the constitution. Second one, the drafting committee was established under the leadership of Dr. B.R. Ambedkar. So the Congress accepted the proposal, but the Muslim League rejected. Whatever the recommendation laid down by the cabinet mission, that was accepted by the Congress. Then, but that was not accepted by the Muslim League. So it gave the way for the communal rights. That means lot of revolutions occurred, became the order of the day. Finally, Attlee declared the transfer of power on 20th February 1947. The British government sent Lord Mountbatten to transfer the power to India. So finally, one Mountbatten visited India to transfer the power in the hands of people of India. He held consultation with the political leaders and found that compromise between Congress and Muslim League was impossible on the basis of the United India. So he come to the conclusion that it was not possible to unite Muslim as well as the Hindu. So he opined that it was impossible to make the agreement between Congress and Muslim League for partition. So the Act of 1947 was actually an extension of Mountbatten plan. So with the intervention of the Mountbatten only, India divided into India and Pakistan. So for that purpose, the Act of 1947 was actually an extension of the Mountbatten plan. So this way, the 1947 Act came into existence to remove the drawbacks existed in the 1935 Act. Then the main provisions incorporated in this Act, the Act provided that 15th August 1947, the appointed day, two independent states came into existence. One is India and Pakistan. Then both can set up, and the Act provided for complete transfer of power. That means two states came into existence, India and Pakistan. Then the power was transferred in the hands of India and Pakistan. Then the dominion of India got the territory of Bombay, Madras, UP, Central Province, Bihar, East Punjab, West Bengal, Assam, Delhi, Ajmer, Coorg, and the rest of India except Sindh, Balochistan, West Punjab, East Bengal, Northwest Frontier Province, and in Assam, which became the territories of Pakistan. For demarcating the boundaries, Boundary Commission was formed with Sir Cyril. For demarcating the boundaries, Boundary Commission was formed with Sir Cyril Radcliffe as the chairman. Then the another provision outcome of this act, the crown was no longer the source of authority. That means he was not having any power over the people of India. Then the governor general and the provincial governors were to act as constitutional heads. They lost extraordinary powers to legislate. That means they, after the introduction of this act, the Britishers, they were no concerned with the lawmaking authority. The office of the Secretary of State was abolished. From 15th August 1947, the British Crown lost all rights of supremacy over India, and the Indian states were free to join either Indian Union or Pakistan. The states can join in India, Pakistan, because states have got sovereign power. The power in each dominion was transferred to the Constituent Assembly, which became fully sovereign from 15th August 1947 and were absolutely free to frame the constitution. Afterwards, India got the complete sovereign power to frame the constitution. The Constituent Assembly had a dual role, that is constituent and legislative. They functioned as central legislature till new legislature were formed. Until the new constitution was formed, the Act of 1935 would govern the center and the provinces with necessary modification, because in 1935 Act the establishment of dual government or federal government was incorporated. According to that, till the formation of the new government, the act continued. That means whatever the provisions were existed in 1935, those came into those. That means the act of 1935 would govern the center and the provinces with necessary modification. With the passage of this act, India and Pakistan became free nations. Outcome of this act, both got independent sovereign status. Mr. Jinnah accepted Pakistan. He had rejected the earlier, but for this compromise, the independence would have been delayed. Partition was inevitable. A hard-earned, prized freedom was won after long, glorious years of struggle, but a tragic partition rent as under the fabric of the newly emerging free nation. So this way, 1947 Act came into existence. That Act itself has provided the sovereign power in the hands of India and Pakistan. After that, the interim government of India was formed on 2nd September 1946. The Constituent Assembly had 389 members. It was drawn from the newly elected Constituent Assembly of India. It had the task of assisting the transition of India and Pakistan from British rule to independence. It remained until 15th August 1947. When India became independent, the Constituent Assembly became a sovereign body and performed the role of legislature for the new state. It was responsible for framing the constitution and making ordinary laws, as well as the interim government formed on 2nd September 1946 with 389 members. So the main aim of the formation of interim government, that to perform the role of legislature. That means the main aim of forming the interim government to make set of legislation to run the administration. Then Viceroy Executive Council. The Viceroy Executive Council transformed into the Council of the Minister. It served as the executive branch of the interim government. So the entire functioning of the interior government controlled by the executive branch. Earlier it was in the hands of the Viceroy Executive Council. So that was transformed into the Council of the Minister. The Vice President of the Council, Pandit Jawaharlal Nehru, was bestowed with the powers of the Prime Minister. Afterwards, Jawaharlal Nehru was gifted with the powers of the Prime Minister. Other prominent members of the council, or that means the entire government was formed by appointing the different members or ministers, that is the Prime Minister and the Home Minister, Law Minister, Education Minister. Here they have laid on the office looked after by the different political leaders during that time. So the Jawaharlal Nehru was the Prime Minister. So as well as the Home Minister and the Prime Minister, both office looked after by Vallabhbhai Patel. Then Ambedkar was Law Minister during that time. Then Abdul Kalam Azad, he was in charge of looking the education. Then this way here the different departments were assigned to the different political leaders. This way they organized the government. So they organized the government. Then although the British India remained under the sovereignty of British till August 1947, till that also it was under the sovereignty of the British till 1947. The interim government has proceeded to establish diplomatic relations with the other countries, including the United States. In the meanwhile, after the formation of the interim government, the India started making the negotiation with the neighboring states. Then independent India accepted the constitution on 26 November 1949 and came into effect on 26 January 1950. That means, so whatever the objectives, whatever the resolutions placed before the British Parliament, they adopted, that means they accepted on 26 November 1949 and came into effect. That means that is known as the adoption date of the Indian Constitution. Adopted means they accepted. 26 November 1949 was the adoption date of the Indian Constitution, but actually it came into effect on 26 January 1950 based on the provisions of the Constitution. That means as per the rules and regulations incorporated in the Constitution. So after that the first general elections were held. That is known as after formation of the Indian Constitution, after getting the Indian independence, after attaining the sovereign power, after establishing its own independent authority. Then the first general elections was held in 1951-52. That was the first election held in India, that India became sovereign democratic republic after the Constitution, because in the Constitution they have incorporated all these characteristic feature. India should be republic, India should incorporate the republican form of the government. So after getting the Indian independence, India became sovereign democratic republic after the Constitution was adopted on 26 January 1950. General elections to the Lok Sabha were held. General elections were held to the Lok Sabha, held in India from October 1951 to February 1952. First general elections held in India from October 1951 to February 1952. On the basis of the nature of the election was universal adult franchise right. That means all are eligible to cast the vote, whoever has attained the age of the 18 years. Then with this, India emerged as the world's largest democracy. With the concept of casting the vote, or with the concept of incorporation of the universal adult franchise right, India became the largest or emerged as the world's largest democratic country. The provision of universal adult franchise was an act of faith. So the main aim, the act incorporated the provision of the universal adult franchise was an act. The act came into existence that all are eligible to take part in the election, whoever has attained the age of the 18. The act came into existence on the act of faith on the part of the framers of the constitution in the democratic process. So this concept has been incorporated by the framers of the Indian constitution. Then on the basis of democratic principles, the holding of general election was a bold implementation. During that time, it was a bold step taken by the framers of the Indian constitution, all of that faith in man and democracy. So, due incorporation of the democratic principle itself gave the way for conducting the election and keeping the faith uh, in the hands of the people of India. So, the first general election was the most political experiment in the history of democracy. It was the first experiment in the history of democracy. The following facts indicate that it were the world's largest free election. So they have laid down the procedure regarding the number of the election, number of the people taking the part, or the members of casting the candidates taking part in the election, and the number of establishment of the polling stations, then voters list, how many voters voted. So they have laid down systematically. So number of the seats in Lok Sabha for which elections were held 489. Then second one, the number of electorate 176 millions. Number of persons who actually voted 105.5 millions. Number of polling booths, that is the polling booth established 2,24,000. Then percentage of votes polled, that is a 45% voters casted the vote. The number of political parties taken part in this election, 70 political parties participated in that election. Then number of the candidates who contested, 1,800 candidates casted taken part in the election as a candidate. Then the result of the election. So in that result and the party position in the first election. So party participated, Indian National Congress participated, got 45% votes, seats 364. Then Communist Party of India 3.29 percentage, 16 seats. Bharatiya Janata Sangh 3.06 percentage, 3 seats. Then Akhila Bharatiya Hindu Mahasabha 0.95%, 4 seats. Scheduled Caste Federation 2.38 percentage, 2 seats. Independents 16 percentage, 37 seats. Kisan Mazdoor Party 6%, 9 seats. So from the result shown above, the following conclusions drawn. The Congress emerged as the most popular political party in the country. Then second one, the percentage of voting was 45%. There was no relationship between the percentage of the votes secured by the party and the number of the seats. The Communist Party were popular in Hyderabad. And then voting in rural areas was 60%, 60% and 40% in the towns. The entire election was conducted in a peaceful manner, which was a notable and encouraging feature. The scheduled caste leader and the chairman of the drafting committee of the constitution, Dr. B.R. Ambedkar, was defeated from the Bombay constituency by a little known Kajorkar. So, the first Lok Sabha had 490 seats. Elections were held for 489 seats and 2 Anglo-Indian members were nominated. The speaker of the first Lok Sabha was Sri G.V. Malvalankar. It had met for 677 sessions or 3,784 hours, the highest recorded count of sittings. It listed its full term from 17th April to 1952 to 4th April 1957.